Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Humaning, the podcast where we explore what it means to live well, feel whole, and really be human in our day-to-day lives. I'm Clara, and I'm so glad you're here with us today. Whether you're tuning in while you walk, cook, or just take a moment for yourself, thank you for sharing this space. Today, we're digging into something that honestly impacts every single one of us, whether we realize it or not: gut health. It sounds simple, but there's so much more to it than just digestion. And of course, I'm joined by my good friend Erin, who always brings the sciencey, practical side to these conversations. Hi, Erin.
Hey, Clara. Hey, everyone. I am so pumped for this one. Gut health is one of those topics that just keeps coming up at dinner tables, in doctors' offices, on social media, and there's a reason for that. The more we learn, the more it becomes clear that our gut is kind of the unsung hero of our overall health. It goes way beyond just whether you feel bloated after eating pizza, right? It's about mood, immunity, even how we handle stress. So I'm really excited to break it down with you today.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like gut health is sort of having a moment, which is awesome because it deserves the spotlight. I know for me, when I started paying attention to how I was feeling, energy, mood, even my skin, it all seemed to circle back to what was happening in my gut, even though I didn't realize it at first. And before we jump in, I just want to gently remind everyone, if you're enjoying these conversations, it really helps us out if you like and subscribe to the channel and maybe even share with a friend. We put a lot of love into Humaning, and your support means the world. Okay, Erin, can you start us off with what we actually mean when we say gut health?
Yeah, totally. So, gut health is kind of an umbrella term. When people talk about it, they're usually referring to the function and balance of bacteria in parts of the gastrointestinal tract, especially the intestines. Our gut is home to trillions, literally trillions of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other microbes. This community is called the gut microbiome. And what's wild is that these microbes aren't just passive passengers, they're super active. They help digest our food, produce certain vitamins, train our immune system, and even communicate with our brains through something called the gut-brain axis.
I love that image of them not being just passengers, but like these tiny, hard-working roommates. Some days, I imagine them having little parties in there. But, jokes aside, it's amazing to think that these microbes actually influence how we think and feel. I'm curious, Erin, can you talk a little bit more about that gut-brain connection? Because I think a lot of people don't realize that our mental health and gut health are so closely linked.
Oh, totally. This is one of my favorite parts. So the gut and the brain are connected by a two-way communication system called the gut-brain axis. This is mostly through the vagus nerve, which is kind of like a superhighway between your gut and your brain. It goes both ways. Signals from your brain can affect your gut, and signals from your gut can affect your brain. For example, about 90% of the body's serotonin, a neurotransmitter that influences mood, sleep, even appetite, is produced in the gut. And there are studies showing that when the gut microbiome is out of balance, what we call dysbiosis, it can contribute to symptoms of anxiety and depression.
Isn't that just mind-blowing? I remember the first time I heard that most of our serotonin is made in the gut. I had to pause and let it sink in. It really reframes that idea of a gut feeling. It's not just a metaphor, it's literally your gut talking to your brain. I know for me, when I'm stressed or anxious, my digestion can get all out of whack. It's like my body is waving a little flag saying, "Hey, pay attention." Have you ever had that experience, Erin, where you notice your gut reacting to your emotions?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, who hasn't had that butterflies in the stomach feeling before a big event, or maybe an upset stomach when you're really nervous? I get that all the time. I remember in college, before big exams, I'd basically live on saltines and ginger tea because my stomach just couldn't handle much else. And now, looking back, I understand it in a whole new way. My stress was literally changing how my gut functioned. It's humbling to realize how interconnected everything is.
It really is. And I think that's why I get so passionate about these topics. Because sometimes when we're struggling, maybe with low energy or our mood or our digestion, we can start to feel like our bodies are failing us. But really, it's all these systems talking to each other, trying to get us back into balance. And gut health is such a foundational piece. So, Aaron, what are some signs that someone's gut health might be out of balance? Like, what should people be looking for?
Great question. Some of the classic signs are digestive symptoms, things like bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, heartburn, but it can go way beyond that. People might notice food intolerances popping up, or even things like skin issues, eczema, acne. There's research linking gut imbalance to autoimmune conditions, allergies, and, as we mentioned before, mood problems like anxiety or depression. Even frequent colds can sometimes be a clue, since a big chunk of our immune system is actually in the gut. Of course, these symptoms can have lots of causes, so it's not always just about the gut. But if you notice a pattern, it's something to pay attention to.
That's so helpful. I think sometimes we're so used to feeling a certain way, maybe tired after meals or a little bloated every night, that we almost normalize it, and we don't realize it could be our body's way of asking for support. I went through a phase a few years back where I just felt sluggish all the time. My skin was acting up, I was getting headaches, and my stomach just felt off. When I started focusing on my gut, adding more fiber, cutting back on processed foods, it was like a light switch flipped. It didn't happen overnight, but there was this gradual lifting of brain fog and just an overall sense of well-being.
That's such a relatable story. And it's so encouraging too because it shows that these changes can make a real difference. I think a lot of people feel overwhelmed, like gut health is this mysterious, complicated thing, but there are some basic practical steps that can really help. Should we get into some of those?
Yes, please. Let's get tangible. What are some gut-friendly habits that people can try out, maybe even starting today?
Okay, so first and foremost, fiber. Most people aren't getting enough. Fiber is basically food for your good gut bacteria. You find it in fruits, veggies, whole grains, legumes, nuts, seeds. When you eat fiber, those bacteria ferment it and produce short-chain fatty acids, which have all sorts of benefits for your gut lining, your immune system, even your mood. So increasing fiber is huge.
I love that. And I always say, variety is key. I used to get stuck in a rut with the same veggies every week. Then I learned that the more variety we eat, the more diverse our gut microbes become. So now when I shop, I make a game of picking out something new. Maybe it's rainbow chard or purple carrots, or even just a different type of bean. It makes meals more fun and helps my gut at the same time.
That's such a good tip. And it's a fun way to get out of a food rut, too. Another big one is fermented foods, things like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, tempeh. These foods contain live bacteria, probiotics, that can help support your microbiome. You don't have to go overboard, but regularly including a little bit of those in your diet can be really helpful.
I'm a big fan of sauerkraut. I actually started making my own during the pandemic, kind of a stress hobby that stuck. It's surprisingly easy, and it's so satisfying to eat something you've created yourself that's also nourishing your gut. And I'll just say for anyone listening, if you're new to fermented foods, start slow. A little goes a long way, especially if your gut isn't used to it yet.
Yes, totally. I learned that the hard way with kombucha, started with a big glass, and let's just say my gut was not happy with me that afternoon. So, baby steps. And while we're on the topic, it's also important to feed those probiotics with prebiotics, basically the fibers that those bacteria love to eat. Foods like onions, garlic, leeks, asparagus, bananas, oats, these are all great prebiotic foods.
That's such a great point. It's like tending a garden, right? You need the seeds, the probiotics, but also the fertilizer, the prebiotics. I love thinking of my meals as opportunities to create a little ecosystem inside me. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes I'll just add some sliced banana and a sprinkle of flax seeds to my yogurt, and I know I'm doing something kind for my gut.
Absolutely. And while we're talking about kindness to our guts, let's touch on the things that can throw it out of balance. Antibiotics are a big one. They're life-saving drugs, but they don't just wipe out bad bacteria, they take out a lot of the good ones too. So if you ever need antibiotics, it's extra important to focus on supporting your gut afterwards. But even things like chronic stress, poor sleep, too much sugar, or highly processed foods, those can all have a negative impact.
Yes, and I think that's so empowering to know. Because sometimes we can feel at the mercy of our bodies, but these are areas where we actually have some agency. Like, I used to think that stress was just something I had to power through. But now I see it as a signal, an invitation to slow down, breathe, maybe even do something creative or grounding, something that helps both my mind and my gut. Do you have any stress management practices that you like, Aaron?
Oh, for sure. I'm a big believer in movement, even if it's just a quick walk around the block. There's some really interesting research showing that exercise can actually increase the diversity of your gut microbiome. Meditation is another one. I resisted it for years, but now even 5 minutes helps me reset. And honestly, laughter. I know it sounds cheesy, but putting on a silly show or calling a friend can do wonders for my stress levels and digestion.
I love that. Laughter really is medicine. And I think that's such a beautiful reminder that gut health isn't just about what we eat, but how we live. It's this dance between nourishment, movement, rest, and joy. And for anyone listening, please know, this doesn't have to be about perfection. It's about small, loving choices that add up over time.
Yes, 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 I think that's so important. It's not about never eating pizza or always eating kale. It's about building a foundation that supports your body, but also leaves room for pleasure and flexibility. One meal, 1 week, even 1 year doesn't define your gut health for life. It's a journey.
I couldn't agree more. And I think, too, we can't talk about gut health without mentioning hydration. Sometimes the simplest things make the biggest difference. I notice my digestion is so much better when I'm actually drinking enough water. My skin glows, I have more energy, and everything just feels smoother, if you know what I mean.
Oh, definitely. Water is underrated. It helps move things along, keeps your gut lining healthy, and even supports the balance of your microbiome. I try to keep a water bottle with me at all times, otherwise I totally forget. And for anyone who struggles with plain water, adding a squeeze of lemon or some cucumber slices can make it more interesting.
Yes, or even a couple of fresh mint leaves. I also wanted to touch on listening to your body. There's so much information out there. Do this, don't do that. But at the end of the day, our bodies are always communicating with us. If something doesn't feel right, or if a certain food doesn't agree with you, that's valuable information. It's okay to trust your own experience, even if it doesn't match someone else's.
That's such wise advice. We're all unique. There's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to gut health. Some people thrive on more fiber, others need to go slower. Some folks love fermented foods, others can't tolerate them. It's about experimenting, being curious, and giving yourself grace.
Grace, that's the word. And maybe as we start to wrap up, we can share a couple of our favorite gut-friendly meals or snacks. Something simple that listeners could try this week?
Ooh, I love that idea. Okay, if I had to pick a go-to gut-friendly snack, I'd probably say a bowl of overnight oats. I make them with rolled oats, chia seeds, a scoop of plain yogurt, and whatever fruit I have on hand, usually blueberries or banana. Sometimes I'll add a little bit of chopped nuts for crunch. You get fiber, prebiotics, probiotics, and a whole bunch of micronutrients all in one. And it's just so easy to prep ahead.
That sounds delicious. And so portable, too. I'm a big fan of anything I can grab on busy mornings. One of my favorite gut-loving lunches is a big salad with mixed greens, shredded cabbage, chickpeas, roasted sweet potato, and a scoop of homemade sauerkraut on top. I drizzle it with olive oil and lemon juice. It's colorful, filling, and has that fermented kick. And honestly, it just makes me feel vibrant, which I think is the best endorsement.
Yum! That totally makes me want to step up my salad game. I love adding beans or lentils for that extra fiber, and they're so versatile. You know, people sometimes worry about beans and bloating, but if you start slow and rinse them well, most guts adjust. It's actually your microbiome getting used to new fuel.
That's such a good point, and I think there's something kind of beautiful about that. Like your inner ecosystem is learning and adapting as you feed it new things. It's a reminder that change takes time, and that's okay. Speaking of trying new things, I'd love to ask you, Aaron, when you first started paying attention to your gut health, was there anything that surprised you? Maybe a habit you changed that made a big difference?
Oh, definitely. I used to eat a lot of processed snacks like protein bars, chips, that kind of thing, especially when I was busy. I thought I was being efficient, but my digestion was always a little off, and I just felt kind of blah. When I started swapping those for whole foods, even just an apple with almond butter instead of a granola bar, I noticed a huge difference. My energy was more even, and I didn't get that mid-afternoon crash. It made me realize how much the quality of what we eat matters, not just the calories or the macros.
Yes, I can totally relate. I went through a phase where I was all about healthy packaged foods, but my body just didn't feel its best. There's something about real, minimally processed food that our guts seem to recognize and appreciate. And it doesn't have to be expensive or fancy. Sometimes just a bowl of steamed veggies with a little olive oil and salt is all I need.
Absolutely. And it's not about being perfect. I still enjoy a treat now and then. Ice cream, pizza, you name it. But I try to make those the exception rather than the rule, and I pay attention to how my body feels afterwards. Sometimes I'll notice my gut is a bit sluggish or my mood dips, and that's just more information to work with.
I love that approach, using curiosity instead of judgment. It really shifts the experience from guilt or shame to just learning and adapting. And I think that's so important for anyone listening who might be struggling. Our bodies are always communicating with us, and we can respond with compassion.
Totally. And actually, that's something I wanted to touch on, how stress and harsh self-talk can impact our gut too. There's evidence that negative emotions and chronic stress can actually change the makeup of our gut microbiome. So being kinder to ourselves isn't just good for our mental health, it's gut-friendly too.
That's such an important reminder. I try to practice gratitude for my body, even when it's having a rough day. Sometimes I literally put my hand on my stomach and say, "Thank you for all the work you're doing." It sounds a little silly, but I swear it helps me feel more connected and at ease.
I love that. I might have to borrow that practice. I think we underestimate how powerful those small acts of self-kindness are. They're like little signals of safety to our bodies. And honestly, our gut is working so hard for us every day, it deserves some appreciation.
So much appreciation. And maybe for anyone listening who's feeling overwhelmed or not sure where to start, we can summarize a few baby steps. What would you say, Aaron?
Okay, so here's what I'd recommend. First, add more plants to your plate. Fiber is your friend. Second, try to include some fermented foods, even if it's just a spoonful of sauerkraut or a little bit of yogurt. Third, hydrate. Water does wonders. Fourth, move your body in a way that feels good. And finally, manage stress, whether that's through meditation, time in nature, or just laughing with friends.
That's such a great list. And I'd add, be patient with yourself. Healing and change take time. If you have digestive issues or you're struggling, it's okay to seek help too. Sometimes working with a nutritionist or a healthcare provider can make all the difference.
Yes, absolutely. And one more thing, listen to your own body. No podcast or article or influencer knows you better than you know yourself. It's okay to experiment and see what works for you.
So true. And if you're making changes, notice how you feel. Not just physically, but emotionally and mentally too. That's all part of gut health. It's a whole body, whole person experience.
Couldn't agree more. And honestly, the more we learn about the gut, the more it feels like a metaphor for life. Diverse, adaptable, resilient, and always in conversation with the rest of us.
I love that so much. And I think that's a beautiful note to start wrapping up on. Before we go, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. We know there are a lot of podcasts out there, and it means so much that you choose to spend your time with us. If you enjoyed this conversation, we'd be so grateful if you'd like, subscribe, and maybe share Humaning with someone who could use a little gut love.
Yes, thank you all so much. And honestly, your support is what keeps us going and helps us bring these conversations to more people. If you have questions, stories, or topics you want us to cover, drop a comment or send us a message. We love hearing from you.
Next week, we're actually going to dive into the world of sleep, how it impacts our health, our mood, and yes, even our gut. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it.
Until then, take care of yourselves and your guts. Eat something delicious, move your body, and remember that you're doing better than you think.
We're cheering you on. Thank you for being here and for being part of the humaning community.
See you next time, everyone. Take care.
Bye for now.